Drake Passage, a 600-mile stretch of open ocean that has been called one of the deadliest places on Earth. Sailors once compared it to going to the moon. It's eaten ships, wrecked voyages, and cost thousands of lives. But why? Where did this ferocious channel come from? Who first discovered it? And why do captains still dare to cross it today? Stick with me. I'll tell you the history, the disasters, the science behind those monster waves, and the surprising reasons ships still use this route. At its simplest, the Drake Passage is the gap between South America's southern tip, Cape Horn and the nearby islands of Tierra del Fuego, and the northernmost reaches of Antarctica. Roughly 600 miles, or about 1,000 kilometers across at its narrowest, it's the only place where the Southern Ocean flows completely unblocked around the planet. That uninterrupted flow is crucial. The Antarctic Circumpolar Current, or ACC, circles Antarctica and moves enormous volumes of water, on the order of hundreds of sverdrops, meaning tens to hundreds of millions of cubic meters every second. With no continents to slow it down, winds and waves build without any landmass to break their energy. The result? Sustained gale-force winds, ferocious seas, and waves that routinely exceed tens of meters. Sailors call the violent motion the Drake Shake. There's a monument on Cape Horn honoring the sailors who never returned. We'll return to those stories in a bit. The Drake Passage didn't always exist. Millions of years ago, South America and Antarctica were closer together. Tectonic drift opened the gap, allowing cold, circumpolar water to circulate unimpeded. That geologic separation not only shaped ocean currents, but helped isolate Antarctica climatically. The ACC acts like a thermal barrier that helps keep Antarctica cold by limiting warm water inflow. Before the Panama Canal opened in 1914, ships moving between the Atlantic and Pacific had only a few options: the narrow, hazardous Strait of Magellan and the open but brutal route around Cape Horn through the Drake Passage. Early explorers probed those waters for centuries. Spanish navigator Francisco de Hoces reportedly sighted stormy southern seas in the early 1500s. Later, the Dutch and English navigators confirmed the Southern Ocean route. Willem Schouten is credited with the first recorded transit of the passage in 1616. And although the passage carries the name of Sir Francis Drake, Drake himself never made the crossing as we now define it. In the next section, we'll meet several ships whose stories still haunt maritime history. The Drake Passage's reputation was forged by tragedy. During the age of sail and early steam, hundreds of ships and countless mariners were lost. A few stories stand out. In 1819, the Spanish ship San Telmo sailed into these waters and vanished. Modern researchers propose her remains may have reached Antarctica, and many historians estimate several hundred aboard were lost. Some sources cite roughly 644 men. A grim early hint the South was no safe harbor. HMS Wager. Part of a British squadron in the mid-18th century, the Wager wrecked off the coast of southern Chile in 1741. Survivors endured starvation, mutiny, and bitter struggle for survival. Endurance. When Shackleton's Endurance was crushed in the Weddell Sea in 1915, the ship went down far from the Drake Passage itself. Yet the rescue story that followed is tied to the savage nature of the Southern Ocean. Shackleton and 5 companions loaded a tiny boat, the James Caird, and undertook an 800-mile open boat voyage to reach South Georgia and rescue the rest of the men. That feat of navigation across some of the world's most hostile water remains one of the great survival tales. Modern reminder. Viking Polaris, November 2022. Even with modern ships and satellites, the Drake can still kill. In late 2022, the expedition ship Viking Polaris was struck by a breaking wave that shattered several cabin windows. One passenger died, and multiple others were injured. It's time to unpack the physics. 1. Uninterrupted fetch and wind. With no land to slow the roaring westerlies, waves can build over thousands of kilometers of fetch. The ACC funnels this energy into the passage, creating sustained, towering waves. Documented waves can top 20 meters, 65 feet in extreme storms. 2. Massive current throughput. The ACC moves enormous volumes, on the order of tens to hundreds of millions of cubic meters every second. And when those flows get squeezed through the relatively narrow Drake Passage, they accelerate and form turbulent eddies, steep seas, and dangerous cross seas. 3. Rogue waves and breaking waves. The overlapping of swell systems, local wind waves, and currents can produce rogue or breaking waves, singular walls of water capable of immense force, as experienced by Viking Polaris. 4. Ice hazard. Icebergs calved from Antarctica drift north carried by currents. Some icebergs are truly massive, measured in thousands of square kilometers at calving, and even smaller bergs hit with the speed of currents can be devastating. 5. Weather volatility. Rapidly changing storms, freezing spray, and the risk of icing add to the danger. Cold temperatures can reduce crew endurance, damage gear, and cause icing on superstructures and decks. Combine all these forces, and each one alone is dangerous. Together, they form a battlefield of water. Given the risks, why still use it? There are 3 reasons. 1, it's the most direct ocean link between the Atlantic and Pacific in high latitudes, vital historically and still useful for certain routes. 2, for science and tourism. Ushuaia, Argentina is the main gateway to Antarctic research stations and expeditions. Scientists and expeditionary tourists cross the Drake to reach remote sampling sites and wildlife. The passage is also a living laboratory for oceanographers studying currents, climate, and marine life. We've told stories of loss and survival. Each story is a lesson in limits, of materials, of machinery, and of human endurance. They also spurred advances. Better hulls, improved rescue protocols, reinforced designs for expedition ships, and tighter international safety standards. The Drake Passage is more than a shipping lane. It's a geological maker of climate, a crucible for explorers, a challenge for scientists, and a sobering reminder that some parts of Earth remain dominated by raw, natural power. For every story of disaster, there's a counter-story of human ingenuity and survival. If you ever cross it, remember, respect, preparation, and humility matter more than courage alone. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the Drake Passage, like, subscribe, and tell me which shipwreck or ocean disaster you want me to cover next. Stay curious and stay safe out there.